Oh, hey everybody, it's me, Jeff Kennedy Space Surfer, and I'm back with a super special hot off the press episode on my channel, News of the Beach. And if you're looking behind me, this is Barbados, Sioux Falls, Barbados. It's Kelly Slater's favorite wave in the world. It's also my favorite wave in the world. And I've been there a lot of times, not in the last few years, hoping to get back there soon. But I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about my channel and more importantly, about my process in making clothes. And it all started in making shirts for my channel, News of the Beach. This was one of the first shirts I ever made, the News of the Beach shirt. And this shirt's made in a dye sublimation. And I put my name on earlier episodes, just like so, and made some of these shirts for my friends. This shirt was called Two Tits and a Pecker because I had two titmouses, a tit and a titmouse bird, and then a woodpecker bird all on this shirt. And then I dye sublimated my name. Now this shirt's been washed like 100 times. It's got a real classic look. This is dye sublimation, so there's no texture to the imaging. Likewise with this huge rainbow pinwheel. I bought these online from a seller on Etsy, 15 by 15 pinwheels. I basically bought them the size of my press. And we started with just making pinwheel shirts for our friends and family and stuff like that, News of the Beach. And I love dye sublimation, but it's like no texture. And so I was like, I want something to feel on my shirts. And so I started getting into puff print. And I am giving you all of the do's and don'ts here of puff print and how you can become like an awesome puff print guy. Now, I only started doing this 6 months ago, and I'm going to show you all the pitfalls and pratfalls you get what I'm saying, the pitfalls and pratfalls associated with puff print. And what it comes down to is there's lots of different ways you can make puff print, and it only gets harder the more complicated the design is. So start easy, and I'm going to show you how I got started. I started by just wanting to do a puff print for my channel. So I did this singular thing, and I was able to do this on jiffy.com. This is News of the Beach puff. You know, you would just take your shirt blank just like so. Your puff print is at 300 degrees, and we puff for 20-30 seconds. I usually set my puff press for 30 seconds, and hey, it's counting today, so we're doing really good on that. This is just a 15 by 15 Chinese press. I would say China, but something like that. Amazon.com, $150. You really get the best bang for your buck, I think, out of a 15 by 15 press because it doesn't require a larger power source. When you get into the larger ones, you need like literally to rewire them for your house. They produce a lot of heat inside your house. They're dangerous. Whereas this one's kind of smaller. It's like a small pizza oven. It's not so cool that I can like put stickers all over it. It's important when you pull your puffs to always give them this shake. Now these puffs in particular that I started with from jiffy.com, they're basically pre-weeded, as you could tell that the puff fits what was actually on the paper, and when you're done, you literally have the puff here, nothing left to it. But it's cool, you know, it makes for a nice News of the Beach shirt, if you will, and I was like, oh, this is so awesome. Now, I got 100 of these, and I paid $2.70 per puff, because I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And I thought, I gotta make something else. So I was like, I'm gonna make this other puff. And I did. I really feel dumb telling you guys this stuff. And so I'm glad you're watching the video because I don't want you to make the mistakes I made. So I was like, I'll make, you know, something like Slimer from, you know, Ghostbusters. It'll be so cool, you know, and we'll puff that just to show you that one too, you know. But the same concept. I started thinking, I'll make these like dye sublimated shirts. I can make them crazy with like ghosts because it was Halloween. And I can put Slimer on them and give this texture pop to these shirts that are otherwise just super like, you know, smooth and feeling. But ultimately, I only did a few shirts that way, and they didn't really take off that much. I also played with them by adding like painted puff paint to the eyeballs and the nose and the tongue, because these are single color puffs when you get them from jiffy.com. And in single color puffs, you know, they do what they do. Say like you have like a fundraising event or something like that. This is going to be your ecto cooler, you know, excuse me, Slimer ecto cooler. That's my drink. And here we go, you know, with the News of the Beach puff. Pretty basic, pretty simple. If you notice, I kind of got tight on the lining on this one. Jiffy will tell you if it's too tight. They'll be like, hey, you need to adjust this. Or if you want to accept like this, they'll let you accept it as is. But ultimately it might affect the ability to read the puff. So you don't want it to be too clear or too close, or it will blur. And that's a large amount of puff, is trying to anticipate how large this design is going to get. And so, once I realized this, I was like, I want more stuff. But, $200, I'm already at $500 and I have 2 images in puff. And I'm like, what do I do with this? I'm telling my girlfriend, this is a good idea. It's not a good idea. It was a terrible idea. So the next thing I did was like, oh, I got a better idea. I realized I could just make these sheets of puff from Jiffy.com. Now, Jiffy.com is going to love me because I'm giving them an ad right here, but I'm just going to puff this whole sheet. And I started also thinking, like, what would look really cool? I don't need all these color tie-dyes. I really don't want blue or green. I just want white, And even to this day, one thing about pressing, always give it a pre-press, This just gets the blank nice and smooth. Any bumps that are in the press, in the shirt, are going to show in it. If you try to puff on a seam, that's going to show. I'm going to show you as much detail. Trust me, guys, you're going to go on a whirlwind ride with me, and we're just getting started. I'm super excited about puff, though. Like I said, it's pretty cool. So, again, we're just giving this a pre-press. I held it a little too long because I'm getting too excited, but we're going to puff this whole thing on here. And my idea being at this time was that I'll take these tie-dye shirts, I'll go out to fairs and stuff and ask people if they want to puff them with whatever they want on them. And I started with my own hoodie. This is my like puff sticker club, and I really want to show you a lot of this one up close because it's got everything from like my original logo that I started with, News of the Beach, and a lot of these white puffs like this Kiss, such a cool puff. And, the News of the Beach I did here. And Slimer's probably on here somewhere too. But ultimately, I ended up with like this Bugs Bunny, and you could tell it's like bubbly. Just lots of random puffs. My dog that was blurry. Oh boy, lots of puffs. Hold on, to be continued. Let's shake this thing off, show you what's happening. Now this is like what you get when you do that white full color puff on a tie-dye. It's just awesome. The detail, it's amazing, and I was able to get all of these items then for $200. So this is kind of where I started to learn, like, I don't know if it's smart or not, but I was able to get JKs, my name Kennedy, this cool like blurb, a turtle, this other like really scratchy fun thing. And why I like puffs so much is because you can feel it. You can feel it inside on your skin. You can also feel it on the outside. And I've found that people who have special needs, kids, myself, even when I'm preparing for my show, I'll find myself rubbing my shirt, just like, oh yeah, this stuff makes me feel good and secure inside. It's like a little blanket. I like it on the edges of my clothes. So I really started putting it more down on the bottom. And I started like saying to myself, well, if I got one sheet of this, I actually ended up making like 3 sheets, one with Bob Marley on it. I finished out the alphabet. That's what DJOKVQZ is, so that I could make like anyone's name. And that led me to the ability to like be able to make someone a shirt, like this shirt that I made for my buddy Cam here. And I think it's great, but obviously Cam didn't because he never even picked it up, but it's got Snoopy here, he's got eating an ice cream cone, pretty cool. It's got a cat peeking over the side, like just super fun. You could do this like at a trade show or something really easy with Jiffy.com, where you just like basically find the images that you want, put them all on one 15 by 15 gang sheet, and then cut them out accordingly, And so, I had this whole big idea that, I could take Pearl Jam Eddie Vedder, and I could be, oh, you want Eddie Vedder on your shirt? And I just come there and I puff it on, and now I'm like in a grunge band. And it didn't go quite that smoothly, but nonetheless, it was a success. And it really led to my own clothes, and I started this layering effect with dye sublimation and tie-dye, right? So this is an example of that, where I used my name, dye sublimated in the Kennedy, the JK, using the exclamation point and the Banksy, because I stole, because Banksy, who's he? Come after me, Banksy. Come after me, bro. Anyway, Kennedy, stoking. These things down here, they're in the bottom corner for a reason, because I'm a nervous Nelly, and so I grab my shirt. It's like one of those guys that grab right here at their pants, like, hey man, when they're talking to you, I would grab my shirt. And even this one, like, I love little, oh, I got a glass cleaner right here. So freaking cool. And I was trying to figure out how to make glass cleaners. Anyway, my brain goes crazy, and this is why I'm doing this episode, because we are nowhere close. Let's puff another shirt, right? So we moved from that. We moved into like color puffing. We're like, okay, I got to get the Cricut machine. I don't know how to do any graphics whatsoever, so I'm making my own graphics. Things like this, like Kennedy, you know, because at the end of the day, if you got to wear a shirt, you know, what are you going to put on it? Numbskull, or maybe it might work. I see people introvert, whatever, but I just put my name, you know, and one day I might make a brand. You know what I'd call it? Kennedy. You know why? It's a sick name, you know, Kennedy, right? Sounds good. It's not Kennedy or Geoff Kennedy. It's Jeff Kennedy. Space Surfer, by the way. And yeah, so we're going to puff this bad boy. Blue on yellow. You'll see what I'm talking about. We're just talking single color puff here. Now, I kept going down that rabbit hole where I was doing the dye sub, right? White puffs over, like little heat cliffs. Now, all I had was those puffs, so this has like 9 heat cliffs on it, you know? And they're just layered over sublimation, you know? So you get this cool textured effect. And this shirt's been washed 100 times. I kid you not, I've washed these all 100 times. These are daily worn shirts for me. My Dick Dastardly shirt, and I just same thing, color puff. Little wrinkly, because I was still learning what I was doing, but all in all, super good. You know what I'm saying? And he's right there on your Muttley shirt, super stoking on this stuff. So fun, right? And we're going to give this one a big old shake. We've got to shake this one off because, oh my goodness, this is my name. And I don't want to mess up my name, you know? You don't want to screw up your name, you know? Don't do anything to harm the name, right? So this is just a play on that, you know, where you take that single color puff, you put it on a contrasting color, and you know, before you ever even think about the puff, you think about the color of the shirt, you know? Now, white puff is gonna look good on anything, but like I said, yellow on blue, holy smokes, right? Puff that, baby, you know? And it's my name, and I'll wear it all day long. Boom, now I got it on for you. You like that? Well, that's as close as we're getting right now, because we got more to go, okay? Hey, I feel like Carrot Top in shirts right now, right? Carrot Top's from around here too. Shout out Carrot Top. Shout out Danny Tosh, hung out with that guy too. We surfed all the time. 1A Junior Men's ESA, that's me, that's Danny Tosh. He won it the year before me, I won it the year after, all right? Now, I'm not saying I'm Danny Tosh, I'm saying I'm Jeff Kennedy, Space Surfer, and I make shirts. And I don't know, Danny's got a children's clothing line. Here I'm coming, Danny. Coming after you. All right, too excited. All right, so anyway, I then went to multiple color, single color puff, where I just did this image twice, and then I cut it out and redid it again. I'm just noticing, this one's actually kind of fallen apart on me a little bit. Now, I've worn this shirt a lot of times, and sometimes I do. That just means I didn't get the best press on it. And I'm not necessarily in the business of selling shirts. I'm in the business of like making cool stuff. But I have worn this shirt like at least 10 times, and so I'm kind of like bummed. I'm literally finding that out for the first time. Probably wouldn't have shown you this shirt. You'll find out here first, though. Hey, but let's continue on. You know, I did this other one. Now, my name's backwards, but it doesn't matter, because the Kennedys came out good and it's all weird and directional, and you can just have fun. This is pink on black. And like I said, this is just single color puff print. And likewise, when you take single color puff print, you can always print the image twice, like I did on this one, again, Kennedy. Because, you know, I just started out literally just doing my name in multiple colors and then crossing them, you know. This one's super cool looking, right? With the Kennedy, and it's just got the, you know, double color matching, you know, and you try to figure out what you're doing in it ahead of time. But like I said, I've washed all of these several times. If you wash them cold and inside out, they won't fall apart like this. I guarantee the one I showed you previously, more than likely I washed it outside and I washed it hot because I didn't do much paying attention to that. I throw most of my stuff in. If I could have my way, I'd keep my washer on cold and hang my clothes up. That way I didn't screw everything up that I made, but here we go. We'll keep making stuff, right? So we got these 2 shirts here, this sweatshirt. We got this one here. This is also the same thing, like I said, single color puff. And how I accomplished that, you can get this variety pack in Amazon, just like so. Now this is 15 sheets, for example, in puff. It's not like your top quality puff, but I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference in good puff versus bad puff. As a matter of fact, some of the better puff that's very rubbery, it doesn't necessarily translate to great puff. So yeah, I prefer just Amazon.com variety pack. You get 15 colors like so, and you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. So I would recommend getting two packs. Each pack usually has 2 sheets of white and then every other color, just a single sheet. But yeah, 15 pack, you get quite a few colors. And it allows you to, like I said, do 2 things like this, you know, where you can make nice sweatshirts. And you'd be able to accomplish several of these sweatshirts out of a $15 pack. You know, going back to white puff for a moment, this can be done. You know, this was for my girlfriend and wife, who's also wife. Now we got babies coming, you know what I mean, that whole thing. So we got a baby shirt here, you know, because she's breastfeeding. All of these items, graphics were pulled out of a Cricut directly onto the Cricut platform, pulled out, weeded out of that single sheet of puff. And, you know, like I was showing you before, you know, with the Jiffy images, they're all pre-weeded. So you're kind of like really ahead of the game in terms of like, if you need to make 50 or 100 of something, you might want to consider going that route because you know you can get them. You just stamp them here, and then you're done, you know? But from there, you know, you can go different routes. Like if you go the Cricut route, here's some real good examples of how I started to proceed. So once I got into single color puff, I did things like this Super Bowl champs one here. You know, you got the KC logo puffed, 2-color. I did the KC and then the arrowhead. And then you got the eagle over here, you know. So that, I think, swoop or something like that. We got the big eagle and, you know, go Eagles on this one. They took this one, right? So that's about as much as I know about football. You heard it here first, folks. But more importantly, we got more of these shirts like SpongeBob SquarePants. How cool is this with the full dye sublimated shirt, you know? And I use my tailored front end where I don't put any color on the bottom. It's just called like my disembarkation line. I also love to color the nose portion or like nose portion, the neck portion of the shirt. I guess I do a lot of surfing, so I call those noses and tails, but this would be neck and waist, right? And the puff I did all over the overlay, and now that I'm more technically advanced, I could do this entire SpongeBob, but more to come on that. We're gonna show you that here. All right, so let's get back to what I got to show you. More puffs where we just followed what the traditional graphic was, the Johnny Bravo, and we literally puffed it, you know, and this can give you this really great accentuation, especially when the graphic lends for it. So kind of what I'm talking about here, where you have this Super Friends and you have this 3D technical effect on all of the logoing, yet you use that incorporation with the dye sublimation to get all of those rich colors, all of those great graphics that you know you're gonna love or kids are gonna love, and that nice disembarkation. I've washed this shirt at least 10 times, I kid you not, and I've worn it 10 times or more, and it just gets, you know, it gets better. Like I said, if these were printed on a higher polyester blank, they would be even more profound. But I'm mainly here to show you the puff. And the puff, you know, after 10 washes, super solid. And you want people to scratch at it. It's super rigid. More to come here. All right, so I started going down this route, right? And I'm like, dude, if I can do all these colors, I can make an aquarium puff, you know? And I started like making 6 and 7 colors, every color that I had in the puff book. And a suggestion I make for you guys, you know, if you like something like this, you know, you got seahorses here, you got the reef, you've got turtles, some of my white that I incorporated into some of the yellow with the fish white, you know, and then I put my JK logos. So I really started trying to incorporate the two forms. More to show you guys here, and this is kind of where it starts to get technical and fun. So then I started to do these multicolored, where I'd use like Kennedy as a puff, and then inside it I did Space Surfer with Hong Kong Phooey and all of these graphics, you know, and Jessica hopefully can pull up some of the other ones that I did for this tattoo shop, my brother-in-law's shop, where we just combined 2 colors again, and just like really like tattoo ink style graphics in the lettering, you know, and these took me about 3 hours to make, but I really love them. I've worn these, like I said, tons of times. I think you get that point. I won't continue to reiterate that. And from there, I started saying like, how do I make this easier? Because I was having to cut out the inside of every letter and the outside of every letter. If you know how to do this, please put it in the comments. I still haven't learned how to do this. I have a lot to learn, and I'm sure there's other people who are better at this than me. But I haven't managed to, I can do it to a print form, but cannot do it to the graphic. I know that's a little complicated. Someone out there knows what I'm talking about. But I did move on to just learning how to like do overlays in the texture, and these required no cuts. These are actually very technical, and I don't think most people realize that you can merge vinyls, 2-color vinyl, where I essentially cut this image out and printed it twice. I printed it once for the yellow, and with the insert saying Surfer in yellow as well. And then I printed a second time in gray with like the outside being Kennedy and then Surfer in the inside being gray as well. And then I took the contrasting gray and placed it inside where the yellow inserts were to get the aforementioned Kennedy Space Surfer onto the print. And like I said, you can see I did this one kind of on the fly, and it's kind of wrinkly at the moment. But for the most part, you get the idea. And once I had this idea, I was like, oh, this is on. I want to make the best stuff. And the best stuff that you can really make in puff is probably like SVG. SVG is where you go to Etsy. We'll show you some of these steps here where you go to Etsy. You're going to find like what character or what image you want. Like my neighbor Gene's like, hey, you got to make me a Gumby shirt. And so I made him a Gumby shirt, and he said, whoa, that's a Gumby shirt. You know, because this is what you can do with SVG, where you find Gumby in someone's form where they've taken this image and determined the color coordinates of the cartoon itself. So there's basically a yellow layer, a red layer, a white layer, a black layer, and a green layer to Gumby. And additionally, we did a 2-color Gumby puff here. So this is like also longer than normal. This thing's 2 feet long in puff. And you know, it's Gumby, right? So look at that stretch. Gumby, oh, I'm Gumby. Hi, I'm Gumby. Look at me, I'm Gumby, you know? And so it's truly like the best puff idea in regard to showing someone, because I'm Gumby, you know? And we all loved Gumby in the 80s, and puff was cool in the 80s, but puff's cool now too. And look here, I had a little wrinkle in the shirt, so Gumby got hurt, you know? But you know, that's part of doing this art. Part of the art is like little problems like that. And like I said, Gumby about got cut, so don't mess around, Gumby. All right, now from there, we just went down this rabbit hole of finding cool SVGs from when I was a kid and doing multiple colors and just seeing if I could pull them off. Like this one happened next. This is Care Bears. This is, I think, 10 colors, because 5 colors alone are in the rainbow. These little hearts counted for a color too, because he's pink, he's blue, so we got 9 colors, something like that. And they're merged, you know? So when you wear this, it just has a weight to it. And I really recommend puff on, like, you know, sweatshirts, as you can tell, and sweatpants, because this isn't your average everyday wear. It's heavier, so it's meant to have this like lifted feel to it and a texture, you know, where you can like literally like scratch it and you can hear it and feel it, and you can stretch it. You obviously don't want to pull it to crack it or anything like that, but it can definitely be played with, and it's fun, you know? And once you have shirts like this, I mean, I literally have to spend, to make this, minimum 2 hours, and we're going to show you a lot of the steps of this. I have these shirts as I made them, and how you have to think of these shirts is basically you're going to get the image, the outline, you're going to cut all the pieces in different colors and layers in your Cricut machine, and then you're going to have to assemble them, you know, like basically like with tweezers. And so, you know, to get this merged color, Alvin, Simon, Theodore, it takes a lot of work. And you know, like this A, for example, didn't have a hole in it, so I kind of made the hole, but it came out great. This single puff on the bottom takes 5 minutes. This puff on the top takes about 4.5 hours, just because like you had to get purple glasses and then fit them in, the blue on the eyes, the light blue on his eyes, green on his eyes, just so much detail in these. But that's why they're so much fun, because it's like you're never gonna get a shirt like this. And when people understand the time and effort that we're putting into it, I think they value it more. You know, it's not from China, that's for sure. It's made at Jeff Kennedy Space Server's house. And like I said, 6 months ago, I was doing white puffs. So it's like, this is where your ideas can take you, you know. Fred Flintstone, you know, and he's just on pterodactyl. 10-color puff, super large. So I'm pushing every envelope I can of my puff world, right? Like making big dynamic things, testing the limits of my Cricut machine by making it, I think 20 inches, 17 inches, I think this is. And then look at this, 4-color Flintstone puff here. And this one's ridiculous too, you know, same thing where you're layering in and literally cutting out each of the colors, the whites, the blues, the dark blue and the black, and then combining them together to make a sticker that's just absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I hope you're getting what I'm doing here. But you know, I didn't stop there, and why I'm really showing you this episode tonight is because I spent like the last week on this last design. Like I have been like losing sleep over it. When I show you like Simon and his eyes, I really couldn't figure this Simon eyes out. I could only get the glasses in black, and it was definitely have to be purple. But I woke up the next morning, I was like, we got this. But I've been working on these 2 ideas, and as I had that idea, I had this like Louis Vuitton idea, you know, the old purse manufacturer, right? So I had this idea, and this is kind of where I was at today. If you see my newest episode, you can check that out, where it just tells you more detail about what I'm doing here. But more specifically, I went to do this Louis Vuitton, and so this was my Louis Vuitton before ever looking at it. A little more like Chewy Vuitton or Jevy childlike Vuitton, but I was going for this line differentiation that when I scan this in would be easy to create, easy to weed these images, and then easy to print. And I didn't end up with this. What I ended up with was more like a black, white, which these were supposed to be arrows, but they ended up being like triplicated. And hopefully I can show you this maybe like in the pop corner. Maybe this is going to be good enough. But ultimately, yeah, it just had a lot of line variation. And so to pull this and to clean this, all of the vinyl in between it, it took me like 2 days. But I call this shirt the Louis Fruiton, Louis Fruit, the play on Louis Vuitton. Louis being the famous designer, Jeff Kennedy Space Surfer being the guy who wants your like and subscription. And here's the shirt I got tonight. It's the Louis Fruiton, you know? And this is the culmination of all the work that I just showed you. From white puff print, weeding, into individual puffs, into blending SVGs, to full color puff, into like what I think is kind of like the coolest thing, you know, just super gradient oriented puff, lot of detail. You know, when you actually fuse everything, it's awesome, but it also feels like one large piece. Whereas when you have apples, oranges, lemons, pink bananas, it's just ridiculous, you know. And like I said, I had to cut these individually. I did the blueberries, I did the oranges, and then we just made sure that we did this like crazy but pattern in fruit. And yeah, it's nothing like where we started out with this Louis Vuitton logo, right? And everyone knows who Louis is. But at the end of the day, Louis Fruiton, baby. Keep puffing away. I hope you like the story. It's to be continued because we're not done making shirts, but we're really getting busy making real stuff. And so I wanted to take the time to show everybody what we're doing. And stay tuned because I got big things coming. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Whoop, whoop. Don't cry, baby.